Productivity is not just about putting in machines. It's about work culture. It's about employee engagement. It's about personal mastery, as TPM said, of the person. It's also about consumer changing the behavior. So I think all these pieces needs to come in, and I think these pieces need to come in at the sectorial level as well as at the individual level. I mean, take for example, I mean, he mentioned you're talking about services, say F&B, for instance. I think we should be looking at, personally, I should be looking at whether we should be looking at maybe withdrawing the services tax, the 10%, and introducing a more liberal tipping policy, because I think you incentivize better service level and maybe greater productivity. So some of these things, perhaps at the individual enterprise and maybe at the sectoral level, you need to do to complement some of the fiscal incentives, which I think are very generous this year.
I think on this wise, because you see, there's so much push for productivity, and as the indirect effect is higher costs, now you are loading on CPF increase. So a lot of the corporates will find that, hey, we seem to be missing out from this. But I guess we have gone through this discussion. You see, Singapore, by and large, we are not going to be a cheap society. All of us sitting in this panel hope to aspire to have high income, okay? But high income can never equate with low cost, because our income is probably the organization cost. So the question is that as we see the cost going up, the question is how do we justify this cost? And that's why the push for productivity, to push for value add. And I think this is a journey that we have to go through, not just in automation, in the mindset we do things. I mean, just give you an example. Well, my staff last year, it was her birthday, so I ordered a cake for her. This year, 3 days before her birthday, the bakery called me and asked me whether I want to order another cake or not. And it's kind of difficult to say no. So you see, what they did is that they are no longer selling a product, they are selling a service.
Mr. Taman actually said that we have to all be on board with this productivity drive as individual Singaporeans. And do you think that, as individual Singaporeans, as consumers and as workers, you can all respond to this call from Mr. Taman to be more productive and to help Singapore become more productive? You think this will be a problem for Singaporeans?
There are going to be teething problems, but I think that we will be able to do this. If you recall banking and really retail banking in the early days, it was all at branches and long queues, and then ATMs were introduced. And as ATMs were introduced, branches closed. And so if you wanted your money, you had no choice but to learn how to use the ATM. And over time, when we wanted 24-hour banking, then we moved gradually to internet banking. So even as we change, I think that there are useful forcing functions to gently nudge people forward. And I think that the same thing is going to happen as we shape consumer attitudes over time.